Stuff happens. But in addition to that, there's good prospects from my sources that the Strauss walkway, where they built that huge deck, two owners ago built a huge deck, and somehow or other that wasn't associated with the next owner. It was a weird deal. Didn't make any sense between you and anyone that's listening right now. Plus, they boarded up the door that led out to the deck. That made no sense. The deck is right next to your building. It's adjacent to it. That should have been part of the deal, but apparently someone else owns it, whatever. But it looks like that's going to be all one unit once again, which it should be. You know, as far as red tape is concerned, or she said this, or they did that, and he owns that part, and this used to be this, blah, 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 that's crazy. Because, you know, that confuses the customer. And don't do that. So the right person's going in there, that's Shannon, and she's going to open it up as a piano bar. And no, this is not the piano bar on Route 3 from years ago. No, just kidding. So that's going to be opening up in March. Hopefully, if everything goes in order, and it should, hopefully Albany will cooperate and grant them the liquor license in time for St. Patrick's Day. I also reached out to the people from St. Patrick's Day. We kind of missed out on them the last 3-4 years since I was gone. And then we're going to get them back on, and we're going to bring them in for interviews. That might be Karen. That might be somebody. But that event, of course, has been going on since the 80s. And we'll look forward to that. So that's just good news. And the other thing, I spoke to someone today, young kid, from the Carthage area, from the Foy family, well known for insurance up in the area, and he explained to me what's going on with the Strand Music Theater. So the Strand Music Theater, of course, one of the first movie houses in downtown, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of the first movie houses that actually had an organ to play along with the silent films. So think about that. So the building itself it was built in the 1890s, maybe earlier than that. And the whole row next to it, many of which were unoccupied in recent years, I shouldn't say all of them. I think there was like a comic book place in one. There was a boutique in another. It was a Loft 315. It was very lovely, but the building really needed a facelift. And I was inside today, and you wouldn't believe what it looks like. So that row of buildings, I think it's 3 or 4 storefronts. They're 1 floor high. They've been there forever. They're right there on Lower Franklin Street across from the Commerce Building where NBC 45 is. And they're adjacent to the Strand Music Theater, which, of course, was later, what did they call it? Club Rio. And Mike Gerber owned it for years. Mike La Jolla ran it. It was very successful. But, of course, the club business isn't what it used to be. Now everyone's on Tinder and other apps, so they don't go out as much. Just take a gummy bear and feel good about yourself. But now it's going to be converted into what appears to be some type of a music center for people, and a learning center, because it's hard to explain, but it's a conglomeration or collaboration, I should say, of Neighbors of Watertown, which Reggie Schweitzer is the head of, and he's got one part of the building, and then the other part is the Strand itself. And there's funding from grants, this, that, and the other thing, and JCC. So it's going to be a little bit of both. But the bottom line is this. It's going to be yet another reason why downtown's going to prosper. So the good news about Shannon Exford taking over the old Spokes, the old Strand Theater that's been sitting there doing nothing for many years, along with the buildings right next to it. In fact, it was not that long ago, there was a discussion about tearing those buildings down and making yet more parking. That's not taxable. So now you have actual real, construction, you have buildings that still remain on the tax roll and are functional again. And so anyway, that's part of my downtown news report, but it's always good for me to know what's going on in the world. And then the other thing was recently that I forgot to do because I wasn't there at the right time, was also to do a little feature about the new weather, or actually the old weather vane on top of the First Baptist Church, which was refurbished by our friends Lori at A. Kazi and Sons. I was there last week, and Lori had mentioned to me that they sandblasted the old weather vane on top of the First Baptist Church. And you would think, like, wow, that should be easy, right? No, it wasn't easy. They had to get 2 enormous cranes to lift this thing up there like the star on top of a Christmas tree. So that, along with Lower Court Street, with what Steve Bradley's doing, and the other guy, I don't want to say his last name because it sounds weird when I say it. And Steve also has what is, a convention center or, ballroom, which used to be the old Severance. That has been completely transformed. He also transformed the buildings adjacent and above Dr. Qatar into apartments and flats. And as we all know, although people complain about the reverse parking on Lower Court Street, that's all been redone. $28 million spent on the YMCA. And by the way, the Strand also will have an elevator. So that's real money. Once you have an elevator, I'm not talking about a dumbwaiter either. Once you put an elevator into a building, that's at least $500,000. I could be off on that, but it's a lot of money because it's the design, this, that, the other thing, the retrofitting, and the actual elevator itself. It's very expensive. But this is the commitment that's being made to downtown as we speak. New weather vane, Spokes is being taken over. Who knows what's happening with the Strauss walkway, although it's definitely going to be used this time, unlike the last deal, which was a bad deal. Lower Court Street looks better than ever. And goodness gracious, how many years prior to Stream was the old Woolworth building unoccupied? I'm going to take a guess, at least 6-7 years, maybe more. And then Stream went in there, they turned into Convergys. Then they dropped out, and the building has been empty for, at least 5 years now? Just somewhere thereabouts. And now look at it. Every time I go by the YMCA, every time I go by there, it's packed. And you could see there's a lot of people utilizing the pool. So it's interesting because we've had such controversy about pools in this town. And no one came to realize, until now at least, that a pool with a splash pad and another, lap pool, whichever, is so popular this time of year. It makes a lot of sense. Just like the people from Thousand Islands Winery. You want to have events this time of year because there's nothing else to do. And kids love the water. I bet you that pool, I don't have the data, and I don't want to stir things up here, but I can take a good guess that there's more people using an indoor pool at the YMCA, the Family YMCA and Aquatic Center, combined, rather than the full total of summer use of all three pools, if all three pools were open. I'm not downgrading what's happening. Again, at the end of the day, the investment's being made, it's been committed to, and we're going to have pools that are going to last for another 50, 60, maybe 100 years. Who knows? But having an indoor pool in a modern facility wasn't a bad idea at all.